Hey, Michael Church here, Crawl Space Ninja. Today we're going to talk about how to handle multiple crawl space sections or cavities that you might have in the crawl space if you've added on to your home, or if you've got a new construction where they poured multiple foundation interior walls inside of the crawl space. How do you waterproof those? How do you control humidity in those? Stay tuned. So if you're new to Crawl Space Ninja, we talk about everything related to crawl space encapsulation, waterproofing, indoor air quality. We hope you'll subscribe to our channel, ring that notifications bell, follow us on Facebook, and make sure you check out our DIY store and our franchise opportunities. So we got a great question from Mark, and he has a home, like I mentioned, with multiple chambers of the crawl space. So my home is located in the Virginia Blue Ridge Mountains. I have 750 square feet of crawl space divided into 4 chambers, each separated by concrete with 4 square foot entrance. I will not have insulation under the floor following encapsulation. Would I need multiple dehumidifiers? I have received different recommendations on the topic from different contractors. Your recommendation would be appreciated as you seem to have the most expertise. Well, first of all, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that very much. Let's talk about this. We have done many crawl spaces with multiple chambers inside. And normally, as I mentioned in the intro, it could be an add-on that was done, or even today, it seems like contractors are building crawl spaces with multiple foundation walls, poured footers, and then foundation walls set on top of them. And that is the first area I want to talk about is if you have a poured footer that's under that foundation wall. Now, I know you mentioned that you got a 4-inch opening in between the chambers, and that's great for airflow, but it doesn't allow water to flow real good. So if you've got standing water coming into the crawl space, either from the outside foundation coming in or perhaps water table rising, you're basically going to need 4 separate water management systems unless you can break through that footer or break through that foundation wall below the dirt level. So in that area for us, it's easier just to trench, do 4 interior water management systems inside each chamber, and then put a sump pump inside each chamber. Now, like I said, you may have a different scenario where you can punch through the block wall and connect those chambers, but we don't like punching through block walls because we feel like it could affect the integrity of that wall or whatever. So we're going to just put 4 different water management systems inside that 750 square foot crawl space if you have flooding. So now let's talk about ventilation. As you all know, if you've seen any of our videos, we use dehumidification with ventilation, okay? So there's a couple different scenarios you can do here. We want to make sure that we're trying to push the soil gases outside of each of those chambers, and that could be done with a separate active ventilation system in each exterior wall blowing the air out, or you could buy what we call a whisper fan, which we have on our DIY store. You could actually centrally locate it and then pull air from each of those 4 chambers into that whisper fan, and then have one discharge line going outside. So that way you're removing the potential of smells and soil gases that are building up inside of that crawl space. So that's one way to use that whisper fan if you just want to have one product that's plugged in and running versus having 4 separate active ventilation systems in each one of those chambers. Speaking of that whisper fan, you can also use that to your advantage if you're dehumidifying each of those 4 chambers. So if you didn't have air being shared between the 4 chambers, all right, you would need 4 dehumidifiers. But it sounds like you've got an opening between each of those chambers. So you could use that to your advantage. Again, put the whisper fan in the chamber with the dehumidifier, and then blow the dry air using that whisper fan and duct it to each of those 3 chambers. If you're not able to do that, then you might need 1 to 4 dehumidifiers depending on how they share air between those chambers. So anyway, keep that in mind. If you want to send us a picture of how yours is laid out, I don't mind maybe taking a look at it and kind of helping you in that way. But it's easier to set up 1 dehu and duct the the dry air to 4 chambers versus trying to address flooding in 4 separate chambers. As I mentioned before, you would need 4 water management systems. 2 other things I would recommend you do with that, Mark, is if you're going to insulate the crawl space properly, then you're going to want to put a foundation wall insulation. We use obviously a foam board or perhaps the insul barrier for that. So you would only need to insulate the exterior wall of those 4 crawl spaces, okay? So you don't have to do any of the interior walls inside of there, just like you wouldn't insulate your interior walls between your bedrooms or things. You're only insulating the exterior walls of the entire home. So you can get away with only insulating the exterior walls, but I would still put plastic up all of the interior walls, because the wicking effect could draw moisture up inside of those interior foundation walls and cause a lot of that humidity to escape inside the chambers, which would make that dehumidifier run more often. So take plastic up the interior walls, still have the termite gap as needed in your state, but only insulate the exterior walls. So hopefully that's some great information for you, Mark. I really appreciate your trust in us trying to answer that question for you. And I'm Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja. Hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.